Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome from a wintry England tonight on the Ben, Jen, Harley, and Sam's show tonight. We've got Sam Connor, the legend that is top stellar commentator, very well linked with everything in the stellar lumens world, and we're going to be asking him some great questions tonight. So it's great for him to be on the show. And we're amazed. There's already quite a lot of you guys that are joining us live. So I know that Jen and Harley are also going to be monitoring the chat feed. One thing, guys, it says on the bottom of the screen here, we're going to be, as always, giving away some LSP. All you guys have got to do is just comment, "Gimme LSP." It's written right there on the bottom of the screen. Put it in the comment section. And then if we get more than 30 comments saying "give me," we're going to give away 2,000. If we get underneath 30 comments, we'll give away 1,000. But that's for you guys, and we'll do that draw live on the show at the end after we finish speaking to Sam. So Sam, it's great to have you with us. It really is. I've been plugged into a lot of the stuff that you've been sharing since I kind of moved over to kind of the Stellar family a few months ago, and I know that Jen and Glow are big fans as well. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule on the Sunday to come and join us and share a lot of your thoughts and philosophies centered around sort of Stellar and what's been happening. So, give us a little bit of an introduction, I suppose. Tell us how you got into crypto, how you stumbled on Stellar, why you're passionate about it. Tell us a few things about that, if you would.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me out here. I've definitely there's a lot going on in the Stellar community, Ben, and I came across one of your videos, and I like the education that you've been giving folks, and just really giving them some good helpful information. Not a lot of fluff, just kind of good information, and so. I think that's how we actually kind of started talking. I think I shared one of your videos, as a matter of fact, and we kind of started linking up. So, thank you for having me on your show.
No problem.
So a little background. So I got involved with crypto really early on. I would say it might have been 2013, 2014, maybe somewhere around that time, and my background, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always, my folks, they immigrated from the Caribbean islands here to the States. And so, I didn't come from money. And so I was always trying to figure out, okay, how can I do a little bit more? How can I figure out the ropes? And so, I got involved with real estate. I got involved with investing very early on. I mean, in my 20s and in college years. Even when I was in high school, I was working like multiple jobs. And so, one of the things that I've experienced is that there's definitely a gap with accessing capital. There's definitely a big gap in accessing capital. And I was fortunate, just through hard work, to get to a point where I got to meet a lot of really neat people, we'll just say, in finance world, in government, all over my short lifespan, that I got to get a peep behind the scenes of how things really work. Like, there really is discrimination and things like that happen, for different reasons. If you have a certain a certain background, lenders do chart on the back end, your risk level, so to speak, even if you may have good ideas and good business plans. And so, even though I was definitely able to move along and start acquiring the levels of success that I wanted to have, I still was aware that there was still this other level to get to. And that's when I came across Bitcoin. And I think I remember I was talking to my cousin, and I was like, what is this Bitcoin thing? We would always just, we were like, even to this day, like avid researchers, right? And so I'm like, what is this Bitcoin? Have you heard of it? And I remember him saying, yeah, I think I've heard of it. And at the time, I mean, it was kind of like, dark web type way, right? Like you had to like go in the dark web. What is that? You're gonna get hacked, sort of thing. And so that was kind of the first introduction to it. And slowly over the years, as you started having this more, I think Coinbase. I remember when Coinbase started, that was like, okay, that's a little more legitimate way of getting your Bitcoin. And then Ethereum was kind of like a wow, right? And so, over the years, just really started, deep diving. And, I'm a fan of history, right? I'm a fan of history, and I love it. And so, one of the, I guess, parts of history that always excited me was, when you go back to the era when you had like Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Ford, Tesla, that whole area, right? That area of time was always fascinating to me. And so when I saw this starting to build within the crypto space, I recognized it. And I recognized it, pretty early on, that this was going to be something huge. And as a result, I honestly obsessed over it. I read every single piece of documentation that I could possibly find on every single blockchain. I mean, it got to a point where I don't even know when I slept, right? It was, especially in this world, right? Everything's 24/7. So it's just kind of this cycle kind of going around. And at one time there were so many different chains, but I guess from my angle, I was taking my business experience, my political experience, my history of understanding how the world works, how system works, central banks, and all these, kind of peeling all these things together. I realized that, there was a gap that many in the crypto field weren't really seeing, right? I mean, it was kind of like this extremes, right? This extreme utopias, and then the opposite end, right? It's kind of like either like there's going to be a whole new perfect world, or we're all going to be underworld variants, criminals, right? There's kind of like this big gap. And so I really started trying to look, and even when 2017, when we had the big boom and crash, so to speak, right? That just excited me more. I was more optimistic of trying to figure out, like, is this legit? Is this really going to happen? Am I crazy? And I think it was somewhere around that time frame when I started actually tweeting, right? I started actually going online, and then at that point, I had looked at Stellar before. But it was just kind of like part of like the group of, I don't know, hundreds at the time that were there. And I understood the aspect of it, that it was for remittances. And so that was, I kind of understood that aspect of it. But then when I started looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of these other chains, I realized that there were issues that, scalability issues, accessibility issues. I understood I'm not a genius, but like I said, just kind of combing all my experiences together, I realized that there was a gap. And I remember it was one of my night binges where I was reading through every single documentation. And I'm not a coder, by the way. I'm just going through all this. I'm kind of self-teaching myself here. And I said, wow. I remember calling my cousin up like late. It's probably like 4 a.m., 4 a.m. And he was up, obviously, because that's what we do nowadays. And I said, I think this is it. No, they understand. Like, I had no idea that there was so much under the hood here. They were talking about, tokenization, stable coins. I mean, their whole approach was so aligned with what I saw, like, as far as connecting the real world with the digital world, that I was like, why isn't everybody talking about this network, right? Because they get it. You know what I mean? And so I just started, we started, so it took like maybe like another month or so where we literally debated and looked at all these different chains to figure out, which one was which, and got more and more excited about what Stellar was doing. Once again, I didn't really see a lot in the mainstream crypto world talking about it. There was another kind of group in the field that was, they were also doing remittances, and there were low transaction. And there was a lot of attacks kind of going towards that, what Stellar was. And so my whole goal really at the time was really just to share my opinion. I mean, I remember when it was just like, oh, I have 4 followers. Great. I wasn't thinking like long term. Like, honestly, like I had a whole career going and stuff. I wasn't really thinking of like, this is going to really amass to anything. It was like, am I crazy in my head? Right. Sort of thing. Let me just start spitting out what I'm thinking in my head, what I'm seeing. And the more it started happening, the more I started realizing some things were going. And I was fortunate, like at the time, like the Stellar was, even though Stellar's been around since 2014, I mean, as a core, they were really small. It was really a small core group of maybe like, I don't know, 14, 12, somewhere around there. And so they were going to be in New York, and I just flew up. I flew up and I met, I think at the time I met Zach. I met Colton was there. Shout out to Colton. I met Corey. I met Jed. I mean, this Smartlands was out there. I remember Smartlands. There was like, so I got, at that point, I got to meet kind of face to face some of the folks that were involved. And once again, just from my perspective, seeing it up close, I realized, okay, yeah, they're legit. They really started off from an aspect of, being software and code based and protocol focused, kind of building and making sure it's done correctly. They weren't trying to just pump a token or like I really believe that Jed has a goal, right? Jed's goal was success, was to create something that was actually going to be revolutionary, that was going to be used, that was going to make a placement in the world. And if he didn't do that, then there was no point of doing it, right? It was kind of like, we're going to go for the win and make it reality. Other than that, I'm not just here just to pump a token. And so, yeah, so that's where it started. And then I went to Meridian. I think this was the first Meridian. And, once again, I'm just and to this day, by the way, I don't work for SDF. I don't get paid by them. I have no formal association with them at all. I flew out to Mexico and got to meet more people. I mean, for instance, shout out to Marcus. Marcus was there. I mean, he was just some college kid. Like no one even knew who he was. He was just, yeah, I got this idea. I want to do lending, bring AMMs. It's like literally, like I was like, I didn't even know who he was. Fred was there. Like Fred, like these are like no names, Satoshi. A lot of the folks that we're seeing today, they were all there. They were all just, we all just kind of like all came to Mexico. And I was like, I remember the night before, and I guess I'll back up. So kind of leading up as things started going was when I first started, the whole Stellar family, #Stellar family. There was an army out there, and I was like, nah, that's not what this is a little bit different. Like it's like we're trying to like, and if you look at the ecosystem that we have, right, as a group, we all benefit from each other, right? Lumenswap benefits in, if Lightmint is doing something, then another, let's say Cowrie Exchange could tap in and utilize it. Like I did an interview yesterday or early this week with ClickPesa, and ClickPesa wants to use what YBX is using and tap it in. So I mean, it's a cohesive group. Like it's a everybody can win. And so that started, and then it grew into when at the beginnings of Stellar Global, which at the time was just on Keybase. And so when I got to Meridian that year, I just had my phone, and it wasn't planned. I wasn't invited to do this at all. I just started live tweeting. Like I wasn't in front of the camera before then. It was just like a natural thing of me saying nobody is seeing what's going on. And at the time, like even Stellar, there wasn't like a live broadcast of the event, right? And so I just wanted to share with the community, the people, my little small group that were following what I was doing, to say, hey, look, this is real. And matter of fact, like the video that I have, there's a video where it's like Jed, Lisa Nestor, and I think it's Satoshi Payne. That was the first time that I met Lisa, and I just walked in there and started to just live stream. And then it ended up being like after that, then I think they were going to do Fred. Fred was there, and this is my first time meeting Fred. he was like in another room, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do the interview for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And so I was like, "When?" And it was like, "How can you do it now?" And I was like, "So I didn't know anything. I just walked into the room, and the rest is history."
Wow, as far as backstories go, that's pretty impressive. Tell me, because I'm new to. I mean, I come from like the EVM chains. I'm a DeFi ape. You know, my education platform was designed to help people not get scammed. You know, back in 2017 when we started seeing this monumental growth of crypto. So my focus has always been kind of away from Stellar, but I've been here, I suppose, maybe 6 months interested. My wife actually got me interested in Stellar, which is
you married a great woman. You married a great woman. Yeah, you did.
She's crazy. She's crazy.
Shout out to your wife.
Yeah, she's into all of her shit coins, so I keep telling her to avoid these dog tokens. Right, I said, get away from the dog tokens. There's something that Jen's got in her genes as well, where she's like, I want to play shitcoin casino and like bet on these little like dog. Well, anyway, push that aside. She got me involved in it, but for someone like me, talk me through, in case there's any new people to Stellar and people that are interested. Talk me through this kind of evolution from the XRP family, how all of that kind of unfolded. Because I know you've read all the documents, you understand, you spoke to people. How did Stellar kind of appear, you know, with Jed and you know, it moved away from the XRP? Give us a little bit of history there, please.
Yeah, so I always like to say, you know, disclosure. I mean, this is my understanding, right? This is my view, my understanding. So, you know, for everybody out there. But anyway, so you know, and if you look at Jed's history, I mean, he's an entrepreneur, right? And an entrepreneur developer in that sense. You know, I use the word entrepreneur, but as far as he's a creator, I guess is a better word. He's a creator. And so with creation, I mean, you know, there was no book for blockchain, right? There was no book. This was kind of like, boom, I see it, let's go. And so yeah, he had eDonkey, and then, you know, there was the first, you know, crypto trading platform. I mean, he created the first one, which was Mt. Gox, before he sold it. And then after that, you had you know, the whole payment system, right? The remittances was a big deal. And if you look at his history, I mean, Jed was going out to Africa, and his history is a very worldly history. You know, I mean, if you really get to look a little deeper into him, he's an interesting guy. And so you had Ripple, which was first was created, the XRPL. And the way it goes was that, I mean, he was a part of that, and the direction that Ripple was going was different. And so, you know, Jed wanted, I mean, even back then, wanted to have like a foundation, like a separate foundation, kind of the internet model. But Ripple had shareholders, right? They have shareholders that hold XRP. And they had a falling out of direction, essentially, is what happened. It was a falling out of direction. And so, you know, they fell out. Jed left. And at first he basically, you know, forked the code and went and started his own, and basically went and started his own thing. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, within probably not even a year into that, he ran into issues. Okay. And at that point, kind of even leading up before that, he started to really research on how to recreate something that was going to meet the long-term vision that he was looking for. And so that's when he met up with David over at Stanford and other developers, and put out on one of the Bitcoin chats that he was going to create something where he said was going to be like the next Bitcoin. And it was within like I said, within a year time frame of him leaving, splitting with them, they unleashed a completely brand new protocol, and it was, you know, based on its own unique properties. So, you know, I won't go into, but that's when it started. And so, yeah, Stellar's a whole new code, a whole new base, a whole new philosophy. He created the Stellar Development Foundation. which is a not-for-profit that their purpose is really designed into focusing on the code base, on governmental relations, on community relations, the business community. That's their focus. And it was interesting too. It's like one of the cool things I would say that I've been fortunate with in doing all these podcasts and these chats is that I got to meet, pretty much people that have been around since the early days, since Jed was with, some of these folks knew Jed when he was with Ripple. And so you get a lot of these firsthand conversations of what was it really like? This is like off air, right? Like, what was it really like? And they all say the same thing, was that Jed was really looking for a solution. Andre, I remember him saying that, he told me that, he was trying to work with Ripple. They were actually looking to charge him to do so. And, he was really happy working with what Jed and the SDF were building. And so that's where they are now. Completely new code base, a new philosophy, a different kind of focus, and what they're looking for.
Yeah, so I was listening to, I can't even think the name of the podcast a couple of days ago, and someone was talking about Stellar's relationship with XRP, with Ripple at the moment, and saying it's their take was it's similar to like a Polkadot and Kusama, where when we see the even though they're intrinsically linked is what I'm trying to say, trying to get at. And saying, when the court case and everything that, people are aware of that ends with Ripple, and, whether they say it, whether it's a security, they deem it security or not, and the outcome of that. When the price starts shifting hard on the XRP side, which I think a lot of people are anticipating when all of this is done and dusted, that there's going to be price appreciation quite considerable. Do you think that's going to impact? Do you think there's still that intrinsic link? Do you think it's going to impact sort of Stellar when all of that's cleared up?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that, right? And so I think that, let's go back to when, let's say like 2015, 16, 17, kind of that time frame. When I was involved in crypto Twitter at the time, there was a lot of hate going towards XLM, right? It was a lot of, it was constant. It was constant. And so, even though the facts were, it was clear as day, it's a completely different code, it's completely different code, all these different things that existed, there was still tons of information, tons of articles, tons of things that were being put out there that were just muddying and confusing, the differences. Right. And in my opinion, there are differences. There's difference in approaches. There's difference in philosophies, and it's not a good or bad thing. You know what I mean? It's not a good or bad thing. They're just set up differently. And so, but at the time, there was a lot of FUD, a lot of confusion that was purposely being put out there. Now, while all this was going on, Stellar wasn't fighting back, on the front end. Right. They were really focused on what they were doing, on a lot of what you're seeing today. Right. They built, so let's say all this is going on, even though Stellar's been around since 2014, Danelle didn't get hired till 2019. OK, so when I met Danelle, in November of that year, OK, she was just getting started. I think Jason, the COO, had just started. And so the way that I look at it is like you have, let's say, 6 years of development. And then you had really, this is 2021, 3 years of actual push of the network. Right. And so once again, they didn't want to start pushing and advertising something that wasn't there. Right. Something that wasn't there. They waited until there was actually something. If you notice, even to this day, Stellar doesn't do announcements of announcements, right? And so I think that's part of that link. In my opinion, yes, there are a lot of people that still mistakenly link the two. it's interesting to me how, you know, a couple years ago, nobody wanted to associate with XLM, but now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh yeah, we're together. We're together. You know what I mean? So, which is cool. I just think it's interesting how that's evolved over time, right? Where all of a sudden now that's the story that's being pushed, which is cool. But
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the court case with Ripple. With that, it comes regulations. How do you see regulations affecting Stellar?
I think in a good way, in my opinion. I think that's what Stellar has really focused on from the get-go. And one of the reasons why I really was excited about what they were doing. I think that from the get-go, they focused on this journey, on reaching this point where regulators at a certain point were going to jump in and they would have the whole setup. I mean, and so when you look at, let's say, you know, who they have on the background, who they brought in early, they brought in people like Finclusive, you know, Ahmet, you know, who I've spoken to many times. He was part of, back in 9/11, the U.S. Treasury. He was part of the core group that put together KYC and AML, right? They brought in Ecliptic. You have associations, let's say, with Dan Doney over at Securrency. That was, I mean, he was intelligence. I mean, he worked in intelligence. That's the reason why we have clawbacks right now. You know, he was one of the folks that spearheaded that. So, you know, Stellar was designed with stable coins and CBDCs in mind from the get-go. Going back again to 2016, 2017, when that conversation was coming up, a lot of people did not understand it. You know, it was always like, well, what's the point of XLM? They're not really using Stellar. And it was always because no one really understood what we were seeing in the community and in the SDF, that no, guys, trust me, central bank digital currencies and stable coins, that's going to happen. If we're going to have mass adoption, you know, us in here, yeah, we'll buy Bitcoin, we'll do Ethereum, we'll do all these other things. But my mom, no, she wants to send me $1,000 and she doesn't want to sit there and go and convert to Bitcoin and etc. She wants to have that fluidity. So yeah, I think that you know, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a long journey as far as how of really making it right. Okay, because I mean, you know, I love my politicians, all those. I'm sure they're listening in because they do, by the way, guys. Warning. But yeah, see, to all the politicians that listen in, yes, I love you, but you know, let's get it right. You know, let's make it smart. Let's make it easy. You know, we shouldn't take this long. You know, we have all the frameworks, I think, right now. So hopefully we can make it happen. But I think ultimately it'll be good for Stellar.
Sam.
Jen, what's your because I know you're like a XRP maxi. What's your kind of view on the balance? You know what Sam's shared with us. How do you see it?
No, I fully agree. But Sam was saying about how, you know, in the XRP world, there was a lot of FUD and everything about XLM. There still is. And when I tell people, I'm like, I don't know why you're bitching. It's still a great technology, but your emotions won't make you money at the end of the day.
Right.
So, like, just because you don't like someone because they had a falling out with XRP or you don't actually know the story, I don't understand, like, how that's going to do you any kind of good. So, I don't know. I love XLM and I love XRP, and I have no beef with any of them. I think that that's the silliest thing. But I think that XLM, it doesn't need to be shilled. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. But like, it's one of those ones where greatness takes time, and I think that it will reign after XRP. And I don't mean like reign supreme and everything. I just feel like it will have its run after XRP does. But Sam, someone on here asked, is the SEC lawsuit against XRP affecting prices on XLM? Every time XLM crosses 40 cents, it gets knocked back down. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, like I was saying earlier. I mean, there's still right now we're in this bubble where there's you know, it's hard to like say for sure, but it's clear that, I mean, you know, as Jen just mentioned, there's still this confusion as far as what's going on. A lot of people don't know a lot of the like a lot of the things that I just mentioned about Ahmed and Finclusive and all these different, regulatory things in the background. And so, I think what Jen just said is right. I mean, right now, it very well could be affecting certain people and what they do. It's without a doubt, XRP has the marketing advantage right now, without a doubt. I mean, that's fair to say. And so yeah, it probably has an effect. If, let's say, for instance, let's say if I think either way, once this case ends, we'll see a change, right? If let's say the SEC lawsuit doesn't go favorable for XRP, I don't believe that necessarily means that XLM is going to go away. I don't believe that's going to be the case. If it goes favorable for XRP, well, then I think it's going to be a bull for everywhere, because everyone's going to, if they can do it, and SEC has a very interesting case going on right now. And so I think that if SEC is not successful, then we won't just see XLM, but pretty much every other crypto there is just take off, right?
I just don't know why you would ever want to use an ERC20 token or BNB or something whenever you can use Stellar or XRP. Like, I mean, it's so easy to move around, to swap to anything. Why the hell? I cannot stand ERC20s. Everything. I'm so over it. I'm so past it.
On that topic, let me just interject with something, because a developer friend of mine, we've been looking at creating a new project, and I said I need you to have a look at the Stellar Core and how that's all put together and the complexities involved with us building what we want to build. So he went off and had a look, and I think the problem that we have at the moment, this is just, again, opinion based, but the problem that we have at the moment is that it is actually quite a friction-filled journey for developers to come to Stellar and to build. There isn't the off-the-shelf tools that there are on EVM. You can go there and grab smart contracts. You can go there and get bits and pieces that, open source code that you can basically build anything that you really want to. It already exists. On Stellar, it's a little bit more tricky, multiple different languages, SDKs that you've got to use. And do you think that there's going to be a real push because I think you've kind of touched on, it's a develop first, and we're not really hardcore on marketing and Stellar at the moment. Yes, of course, a lot of people say, well, MoneyGram deal and all this kind of stuff, things are happening. But do you think there's going to be tools for regular developers in the let's just say out there in the big wide world, the non-crypto guys that are going to be able to come in and say, oh, here's a full toolbox like you could get on other chains? Do you think that's in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, a lot of with the Ethereum, right, is, I mean, once again, you can't deny market share. You can't deny the amount of money and concentration that's in Ethereum. The problem with Ethereum, I think, is that, and we see it, I mean, we're just like another hack just recently, right? Is that it's bloated. It's bloated. And as time goes on, we're gonna get to more real world, right? It's gonna get more real world over and over, as time progresses. And I think that over time we're gonna see the use case for Ethereum start to shrink, because Ethereum does certain things good. They do other things not so good. Stellar does things good and things not so good. And I think that that's what we'll end up seeing. And as that happens, then, just like in the Ethereum community, there's going to be people like, you touched on MoneyGram, who I guess we'll talk about a little bit later. But I think that as more traction, more attention, more promising, environment is seen here on Stellar, that you'll see more people come over and develop more tools and whatnot. I definitely think we'll see that.
Yeah, I agree completely. You're seeing a push. Like we said, there's certain things each networks do better, and we're seeing a push towards interoperability. That way, all of the networks can work together. There's not just going to be one winner in the future. There's going to be multiple winners.
Right.
I did want to pick your brain. We got a lot of interesting projects coming out on Stellar with Lumenswap, Stronghold, Yield Blocks, like you mentioned before. What projects are you currently interested in the Stellar network? I
mean, really all of them, man. I mean, there's just, we've gone so many years where like I kind of mentioned earlier, it was kind of like, you know, behind the scenes developing. And so now we're starting, over the last year or so, we're starting to see all these different groups come out with their own, you know what I mean, with their own development and their own growth. And so yeah, it's all exciting to me. It's all exciting to me. I think that I think that DeFi, because I mean, to me, it's like what I've always been attracted to with Stellar has been, you know, the tokenization of assets, the interoperability of assets, lending, financing, investing, fractional ownership. You know, those are the things that really excite me. So there's a lot of different products, some that aren't even really, you know, full frontage right now that I see in the pipeline. Like there's this one company, Rove, that, you know, they're working through all the SEC documents and stuff right now, but where, hey, if let's say Harley, you're in your town and you see a building, an apartment building that you want to buy, you can create like a little social page, you know what I mean? So create a social page and say, hey, look, here's my experience, here's my background, here's what I need to buy this property, here's the cash flow, and anybody can go in there and easily get a fractional ownership in that investment project. You know, stuff like that, I think is what's really going to be is going to make Stellar unique and exciting for everybody.
Yeah, sure. I think that when we're looking at it a minute, I mean, I'm coming across and I'm really excited about the amount of build. I think you can almost, it's palpable, I think, the excitement now, isn't it? You know, you can almost feel it. You're looking at crypto Twitter, you're looking at different things, and you kind of, the people I speak to on a daily basis in, you know, direct messages on the development side, also marketing front. Yeah, I think everyone's starting to get a little bit of like buzz about the place, you know, in terms of the projects that are being built on Stellar. You know, one of the things that within the video that you shared that we touched on was, you know, it's so unique to be having the AMMs and, you know, the DEX built into the network. I mean, you know, that was one thing that you go across to ETH and you have all these protocols with all of these different kind of rug risk, you know, of being sat on top of the network and they're interacting with the network. But with Stellar, they've gone about it in the long road, but they've done it in such a way as it's all actually built into, you know, the Stellar ledger, isn't it? All of this cool stuff. So now these projects are building, and although there's a bit of friction, you know, in terms of, you know, the tools and the mechanics for the developers, I think when that gets ironed out, you've got a network that's got everything actually in it, if that makes sense. It's just an insane proposition when you factor that in with, you know, the low fees, the scalability. I mean, it's obliterating other networks in terms of its operations per day.
It's amazing. And I mean, and even going back to, you know, the XRP comparison, I mean, a lot of what they were using when they were using the XRP, they were going through exchanges, right? They would go through exchanges to do their swaps. They had like a relationship with Bittrex and a couple other where they're doing their swaps. But, you know, I think part of what the whole Stellar vision is to have this decentralized exchange, like this machine at the core, and it's being used. And, you know, it's exciting to see. I mean, I just can't wait to the day when, you know, I'm going to the movie theater and, you know, and I'm trading, or let's say a better example, I want to go buy a vehicle, and you know what, I decide to go ahead and sell my shares in Harley's real estate that I've been holding, and you did a real good job. I got some great returns. I'm going to go ahead and swap that right at the dealership and get me a new Benz. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the vision. That's the world that I see that's possible with Stellar.
Yeah, I think it's when you look at all of it's like a jigsaw, isn't it? Essentially, I think all of the pieces are actually on the board, you know, that we can see, but it's not until the pieces come together that you get that clarity in the actual vision of like how it's all going to work. I think, you know, we're at the stage now, it's getting exciting because we kind of getting little snippets of how it's all coming together, which is super cool. I just want to flip now and talk about one of my biggest passions at the moment, which is NFTs. You know, what's your kind of thoughts and feelings, and you know, everything that's happening in the creative community on Lightmint? You know, where do you see that kind of blowing up?
Honestly, it's super exciting, man. So like I've always loved art. I've always loved art. I'm not in a position right here, but I mean, my house is filled with art. I love music. I used to represent like even when I was in college, I represented like a lot of artists, musicians. Got to work with all the top DJs. I mean, shoot, I remember DJ Khaled when he would be in this place called the Mad Crab House, right? And so they took off Crab and it was called the Madhouse. Like, you know, like yeah, I could tell you some funny stories, but yeah. So I love music, and you know, one of the reasons why I decided not to go that route was because of the lack of control. You know, like I could see that it was. I mean, there was such a lack of control. There was so much room for abuse. A lot of these artists, they look great. You know, you think they're living on top of the world and they're miserable because they're in these crazy contracts, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we had the Napster thing, right? Napster kind of started to flip things a little bit. And then we had streaming, but still, I mean, the control was still out of artists. When I saw NFTs, I mean, it was just like, you know, the possibilities are endless. And what's cool about, you know, crypto, you know, like I remember, like I was talking to John, shout out to John Walbert. He co-founded IBM blockchain and he's over at Baseline now in the Ethereum world. And I remember we having this debate and one thing that that excites me about crypto is that it's the crypto community, the crypto culture. Our culture is about freedom of expression, freedom of ownership. And it's made perfectly for NFTs. And, you know, I always hear people say, oh, you know, it's a fad. If you think NFT is a fad, then you don't understand what's going on. You don't understand what's going on. This is bigger than just, you know, trying to sell a piece of art. It's about whoever that artist is behind you, you know, drawing and creating something that he believes in, that means something to him, and being able to freely sell it for whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like it could be for $10. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm an artist. It's mine. It's what I want to do. It's what I believe in. And I don't care how many people like it. I want to sell it. And so that's that. I think that, you know, from the creative side where the opportunities are, it's beautiful.
So I know that we've got to, in a couple of minutes, sadly say goodbye to Jen because she's got an appointment. So Jen, if you've got a last question for Sam, do you want to ask him with yours, and then you can get off and Harley and I will wrap up with Sam?
I think last question is not so much a last question, but just like a thank you for how much you do for this community and everything, and for actually talking about Stellar, because it's like the black sheep that no one wants to talk about. And yeah. I love that. So keep doing what you're doing. I love it. So
and you too, Jen, man. I see you out there. You're doing it, man. So yeah, shout out to you as well.
I like to troll Bitcoin and ETH maxis and talk shit. So
yeah, hey, it's like I said, it's all about freedom, man. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Jen.
Take care.
See you, Jen.
See you guys. Thank you so much again.
So at this point now, I just want to give a shout out to Seymour, who's a new artist on Lightmint. He's done this piece that's behind me, hence it. Awesome. It's pretty crap light in here, but this guy here is one of his Lost Boys, which is a collection on Lightmint. You can just search Seymour, Seymour, and have a look. This one here, dude's got like his big chain and his big belt buckle. He's actually even got a gold fang. You can't see it in the like I said, the poor lighting on the screen, but this is pretty good. So what I'm going to do now, just in the middle of this while we're talking about it, is I'm just going to share this picture so you guys can see the proper version. Okay. If I just share that for 1 second, you can see that. He's got his gold tooth and he's got his belt buckle and that. So yeah, he's a really talented guy. He's a UK spray painter by day, and he also does graffiti work and street art. So nice. I think he's going to be launching some pretty cool stuff on Stellar over the next weeks and months. So look out for him. Yeah, Seymour. Coming back onto you, Sam, we touched on it. I briefly mentioned it. Talk about this. What is gargantuan in size. This MoneyGram deal that's being made by Stellar. I mean, I'm hearing 150 million global users are going to be able to access, well, are going to be accessing potentially the Stellar network with USDC. Talk a little bit about it to the viewers, please, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people understand how massive this is. It's never been done. I mean, up until now, we haven't really had like true real world use of blockchain, of crypto in real life. And so yeah, MoneyGram is they're massive. I talk about the fact that I own real estate and have tenants. Most of my tenants pay through MoneyGram. And what's great about that is that you can go to any Walmart, you know, we got Walmart, you have CVS's in the States, and I know in Puerto Rico and Mexico. It's gonna, and you can go anywhere and put cash in and send money. And so people are very familiar with this way of transporting money. And when right now the pilot's going on, and I saw the pilot a preview during Meridian and was floored. I mean, this was using the Lobster wallet, a Stellar wallet. And by the way, once it's successful on one, that means any one of these wallets, you know, anybody, you know, educator Ben could go ahead and have your own Stellar wallet and offer your customers access to MoneyGram. That's mind blowing. But yeah, you can go through, you set it up, you can buy USD, you can pick whatever MoneyGram across, you know, in their network that you want to send that money to, and the person could pick it up in seconds. I mean, where else? Who else is doing that? I think it's going to be huge, and they're a publicly traded company. It's going to open up access for other companies now who want to have access to that MoneyGram, you know, clientele. Because by the way, MoneyGram does more than just remittances. People pay their bills. There are thousands of corporations where, you know, everyday folks, you know, pay their bills. You know, you can, they have healthcare you can buy through there. You know, if those that have people that are incarcerated, you know, that's something that's not so uncommon, you know. I mean, you know, in this country, you know, you want to pay commissary, you can go through MoneyGram. So there's a lot of services, a lot of things that it's going to open up Stellar to, that it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, again, I mean, the magnitude of it, I think, is very difficult for us at this moment to kind of understand. You know, when you start throwing these numbers around, I think until we can actually kind of see for ourselves, a lot of us, right, you know, wow, this is now, you know, we're using like the Stellar network to send these transactions, and we're doing it on without even thinking. It's just an app, and we're doing this stuff. I think, you know, we won't really understand fully the power of that one kind of deal that's been done. And I know that there was talk, wasn't there, that MoneyGram were going to be partnering with Ripple, and that was something that was in the pipeline. And for Stellar to do the deal, I think it's a really big, you know, a real big boost to everyone in the community. Harley, over to you, mate. Because I think you need to kind of add two pennyworth to that conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say I love it because it kind of levels the playing field. There's a whole sector of people that are unbanked or underbanked that have trouble sending money, getting money. And a lot of these people are living off of what we would consider nothing. Like they're living off of dollars a month. Like the possibilities of DeFi and being able to transact instantly, it just opens up possibilities in places where those possibilities didn't exist.
I had a conversation with the head of housing finance for multifamilies developments in the state of Florida a couple days ago, and you know, you'll be amazed at the numbers, right? That around 40% of the population are essentially, you know, are below the affordability threshold where they can comfortably live, you know. And so, you know, the way these banks are set up, a lot of times people don't understand. It's like, you know, yeah, you may have a bank account, but you know, you're limited in what you can do. You know, people get killed on overdraft fees. You if they get paid on Friday, they're already late for their kids' daycare on Thursday. I was there. I used to be in that shoe. I know what it feels like, and so there's a lot of working hard people that they need that money now and fast. And so this will make a huge difference to like I said, it's a bigger population than people realize.
Where do you see, there's a question that's just coming in the comments. Where do you see Stellar like growing to in like 2 years' time? What's like kind of vision that you have for it?
Well, I'm excited. I think that a lot of the pieces are coming together, right? It's just like that drawing behind you. If you watch an artist draw, right? If you're looking at it, sometimes you can't tell what the hell they're doing. It's like what, and then eventually it all formulates together, and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. I think Stellar is in that same situation where you start to look at all their different pieces. They're like, okay, you have inclusive, you have securrency, you have tribal credit, you have Tala. They just did a big deal with Tala just recently. So you start seeing it. These aren't by accident. You know what I mean? MoneyGram, when I was talking to Danelle, they were talking about MoneyGram over a year ago. So these are all strategic plays. And so I think that once we get to the point, hopefully next year we see the MoneyGram thing, we get this clarity, that Stellar will definitely shine to be one of the top protocols out there. And I think Stellar being successful is not just good for the Stellar community, but good for the blockchain community, because I think that it's the maturity of the community, the maturity of the organization of Stellar Development Foundation is going to attract a lot of people into our space.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I think that it's almost like cooking a meal, and putting all the ingredients together, isn't it? An onion on its own is an onion, but when you combine it with a lot of other of these different ingredients, you can make a beautiful meal, but it takes time to get them flavors out to make the whole dish appealing. And I think that's what the development side of doing. Do you think there's going to be, let's have a look at, say, traditional marketing in the crypto space? I'm not talking about shit coins being hyped. I'm talking about, real focused marketing in a different way. Do you think it's not going to be necessarily more about business? We're going to see an expansion of marketing from Stellar, or do you think they're going to continue down the let's make solid deals, let's keep developing, let's do the stuff we've been doing for the last few years, or do you think there's going to be an acceleration with the new people that you saw brought into the team over the last couple of years?
Yeah, here's the thing. I think I don't know, right? I think that the biggest issue is the lack of clarity from regulators, right? It's a lack of clarity on what that is. Going back to like where Stellar's going towards. They're dealing with banks, central banks, countries, world organizations. They were one of the few that were invited to this committee hearing next week. They worked on the president's report with the U.S. Treasury the beginning of October, right? They're in a very good class. And despite what people realize, there's only one currency, one crypto that was given like clarity as to where they are, and that's Bitcoin. Like it's an assumption of Ethereum, but not even Ethereum. And Ethereum arguably is the most decentralized network out there. But I've spoken with I've spoken even like with their head of regulation, so I get into kind of an understanding of kind of the bubble, I guess, that they're in. And so I think that they're going to continue, is my opinion, continue doing what they're doing right now. It's working in the sense of something like MoneyGram doesn't happen if there's not clarity, right? If MoneyGram's not able to talk to their attorneys, and it's not happening, right? If Franklin Templeton, you have Bankhaus, the Bankhaus down van der Heid, one of the oldest German banks in the world, that has a stable coin. You have VersaBank over in Canada, which is a North American bank that has a stable coin. They just started and they just put on Stellar. Like, these are first. Like, these are things that no other chain can say they have. So right now it's working in that aspect. I know a lot of people in the community want to see more kind of aggressive things, as far as the token and stuff like that. But I think that, I mean, they'll probably stay the course until there's some sort of different clarity as far as what they can and cannot do. And then I think we'll see from there.
Yeah, fantastic. And finally, because I know that we're a little bit pushed for time now, but finally, where do you, I mean, what's your, your journey? How did you see that, unfolding over the next 2 to 5 years, in the crypto space? What are you wanting to achieve? Are you aspiring to do?
I think that's a lot that I've seen over the past couple of years. It's becoming more of an active role. I've had the pleasure of speaking to CEOs, people associated with some of these world organizations, and so it's been exciting in that aspect. Stellar Global is something that we've had as a community that I'm hoping to turn into a 501c3 next year, and really kind of do the, I guess, what the side that we kind of talk about, that if SDF is kind of focused on the code base, the government side, all those different things. What we really want to focus on is the community, is talking, things that we can talk about, and it's important to the community, and helping to usher businesses, and helping to eventually get into the point of consulting, and helping people to grow in this network. Because in my opinion, I feel as if what blockchain and what Stellar is allowing is an opportunity for a lot of us who were on the outside of the financial and banking industry to really have an inside seat. And so the opportunity is way beyond just a token. I think the true opportunity, the true like money opportunity, if you're looking for those out there, is to build, to figure out entrepreneurial ways, because there's a big market out there, and it's a great opportunity. So I envision having more of an active hands-on role in helping make that happen.
That's fantastic. Anything last words from you, Harley? Any questions or to wrap up?
I just want to say thank you for all you do for the Stellar family. You're definitely one of the only ones that do it. So it definitely makes you stand out, and just appreciate what you do and keep on doing it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I love what's been going on in the community. The community's been growing real strong. I'm excited. It's like I tell people, I'm a community member first. I want to see everybody live their dreams and grow and do what they want to do. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I'm really thankful for the love that I've received from everybody out there in the community, and hope to meet more people and help them to live their dreams. So I'm blessed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We really respect you giving up an hour of, like I say, an hour of your day to speak to us, Sam. Everyone that's commenting in the chat here is saying they're getting a lot of value. They've got a lot of questions again. So if it's something we could maybe doing again in 6 months' time to see, to talk about the the evolution over sort of 6 months, we can get you back on the show and hear a bit more. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, so keep rocking and rolling, Sam. Everything you're doing is inspiring to everyone, and we're super grateful to have had you on the show. I'm just going to finish off the show now with the draw for the LSP token. So I'm just going to switch to that. So let's get it on. Let's see who wins tonight. Let's find this.
Give me some LSP. Mr. T.
That's cool.
Mr. T, you are the winner tonight. So thank you once again for doing the or partaking in our little competition. Mr. T, you have won yourself, because we had it underneath that, you have won yourself 1,000 LSP. Just drop me a comment on Twitter. Just drop me a DM and or on the Telegram, and then I'll get the address off you and get that over to you. So thanks once again to the legend that is Sam Connor for joining us on tonight's show. Look forward to joining you guys next week, when we're going to be releasing details of myself and Ink's new podcast based on everything like Mint and NFT. It's going to be called Mint We're going to be releasing
Nice.
details in next week's show. That should be a lot of fun for all you creatives out there. We can do more of this kind of stuff. Showing
Shout out to Ink, by the way. Goodness gracious, man. He's a madman on the design. So I'm excited for that show. I'll be watching it.
He's an absolute a real, not just in the crypto space and art, but a real good bloke as well. You know, he's a real helpful. One of the people that I think is one of the small cogs in the big stellar machine. Ink is definitely up there. And Sir Cheesley as well. He's another one. So big shout out to you guys. Take care. Thanks once again, Sam. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.